I did not understand how much of a treat I was in for with Indian food. Um, in a few words, it was amazing. It was spicy. It was hot. Um, oh, I loved it. You know, you have your classics. You have your butter chicken. You have your dal makhani. Um, you know, a lot of it's chicken. You're gonna get chicken curries and chicken fry. Um, most of it's, you know, with the chicken curry, it's basically just a gravy you put over rice that's made with onions, tomatoes, seasoning. You basically just blend it all up and cook it until it's all stewed together into a gravy, and yeah. Up north, it's pretty common to eat it with bread. They'll make their naan, their rotis, their chapatis, paratas, parotas, a huge variety of different breads that they'll eat these curries with, or man, I could go on all day. They have their sabji, which is, it means vegetable in Hindi, but it's basically it's basically stewed vegetables that they've seasoned and put together, and that's something you'll eat a lot. Man, there's so much variety. One of my favorites was pani puri, which it's basically it's a hollow ball, a little shell, and what they do is they'll take that ball and they'll punch a hole in it, and they'll fill it with potato, onions, different ingredients depending on where you go, and then they'll usually put in a hot sauce, a hot red chili sauce, and a cooler kind of creamy sauce. I don't know how to describe it. They'll put those into it in just smaller amounts, and then they'll take it and dip it into water that's been seasoned, masala water. It'll usually be a greenish color based on the seasoning, and they'll fill up the ball the rest of the way to the top with this water. And you basically just pop it in your mouth and put it all down in one go, and it's so good. It's crunchy from the ball, and then you just get this burst of seasoning, of just spice and flavor, and it burns the back of your throat a little bit, and makes your eyes water, your nose run a little bit the first time you have it. But it's so good. That was one of my favorites. And it's cold. The water itself will be kind of cold, so it adds an interesting dimension to it. Man, what else? Oh, there's so much. Rajma. Rajma is basically like our chili. Like we have a chili con carne, beans and beef chili. Then they have a rajma without the beef, because there's no beef. If you're going to Delhi, there's no beef. Just forget about it when you get on the plane, and don't worry about it till you get home. But it'll just be this bean chili that you'll eat, and it's good. The seasonings are so rich and complex and overpowering in everything you eat. One of my favorites, it's called an anda paratha, which is egg paratha. Now, paratha is a bread they make that's about the size of a dinner plate, maybe a little bit bigger. And they cook it on these massive flat skillets with oil. And as they roll it out, as they're rolling out the dough, they'll mix different things into the dough as they're actually rolling it out. You'll have cumin and cilantro and maybe like some paneer, which is kind of like a cheese that they'll mix into the dough as they roll it out. So the bread itself has the seasonings in it. And then what they'll do with the anda paratha is, as they're cooking it, as the bread's getting fully cooked, they'll actually kind of slice it open as it puffs up a little bit, and they'll pour, for lack of a better word, just eggs into it that they've scrambled. And then they cook the eggs inside of the bread, and it kind of fills out through the whole bread. And so you'll have this round bread about the size of the dinner plate, about half-inch thick, that's just full of eggs and seasoning. And then you take that and you eat it with a curry. Again, you don't even just eat that plain. You're dipping it in a curry and in sauces, and you're eating that with a chutney, which is kind of like an Indian salsa, that you'll eat it with. That's one of my favorites. What else? Momos. You can't miss momos. They're like a dumpling, basically. It's a little steamed dumpling that's either full of chicken or vegetables or a little bit of both. And you can get them steamed or you can get them fried, deep fried in oil. It depends on where you go to get them. There'll be momo stands everywhere throughout the city. So you can try a couple and get your favorite, whichever one. But the momos are served with a side of chili sauce, which I don't know what they put into it, but it tastes like they just blended the chilies straight in. Just red chilies, and it's hot. Just the straight chili sauce is really, really hot. And so they also serve it with another side of, they call it mayonnaise. It looks a little bit like Elmer's glue at first. It's not like real mayonnaise, but that's what they call it. And it's basically just a cream sauce to help cool down the chili as you dip it. And so those are really good. Those are one of my first loves too, as far as Indian cuisine. And they call that Chinese food. I don't know if it actually came from China or Nepal or where it came from, but that's everywhere. So yeah, there's a lot to choose from. There's a lot to choose from in India.
So in the north, everything is curries and breads, so lots of flatbreads and tandoori chicken. So you have the kind of tandoori influence in the north, and so it's just flatbreads. In the United States, everyone loves naan, N-A-A-N. That wasn't the most common bread in India, at least in my experience. Rotis were the most common. They're just, I think they're a whole wheat flatbread, and they were cooked on a stone that had been heated up and had a little oven above it. And you eat those. You eat with your right hand in India. You don't touch it. Your left hand is really disrespectful. You don't touch people with your left hand. You don't touch things or eat your food with your left hand. Your left hand is what people use to wipe in India. So I think that's just evolved as a disrespectful thing because of that over thousands of years. But you eat with your right hand directly. And so, I mean, you usually take a piece of bread and then you take some curry with it. And so this is kind of interesting. I was explained to this specifically by someone who had already figured it out before me. I think my trainer probably. But Americans like reach out with their tongue to grab their food. Indians, you take your food and you take these 3 fingers and you put them in your mouth, and then you use your thumb to kind of like steamroll the food off into your mouth. And so you pick up some curry and bread and you push it in. That's how you eat. And then in the South, everything's rice and curries. And so there isn't really flatbread in the South as much. And so my favorite thing is chicken biryani. I'm sure that's what Josh Jackson said in his interview as well. I don't know. Good chicken biryani. There were times where I was in people's homes in the South eating chicken biryani. And I was, we always there's no beef. People don't eat beef in India because they're Hindu, and Hindus worship cows and respect cows. And so we always wanted steak and things. There's like, oh man, I miss having steak. Like that's something I miss from home. But there were times where I was sitting in people's homes eating chicken biryani that they had made. and I wouldn't have traded it for a steak even then. It's so good. And biryani is just rice that's been cooked with spices, and if it's chicken biryani, it's been cooked with whole pieces of chicken with the bone in it and everything. And it's just all cooked for hours in a big pot, and it's just so good. And yet it's hard to eat it with a fork because there's things in there you don't eat that are like whole cloves and things like that. That it's a spice that adds flavor to the rice, but you can't eat a clove. It's like eating a stick. So you have to pull stuff out as you're eating. And chicken biryani is my favorite. Another thing that if you were eating out, they called them hotels. If you're eating out at a restaurant, a hotel, then one of the cheap things to go get, which is a pretty typical Indian meal, was they called it meals. If you went and got meals, that meant you usually got a banana leaf on your table, and then like little metal cups of just like probably 10 different types of curries. And a curry is, it's not like a specific thing. It's just what they call their food. It's like it's like almost like saying a casserole and expecting that to be one thing. Curry is more like a category of food, and then there are different curries within that category. And so meals was a banana leaf, probably 10 different curries, and then they'd just come around and it was usually unlimited rice. So they just can put rice on your banana leaf, and you could take whatever curry you want, mix it in, grab it, put it in your mouth, and it was just awesome. You're eating off a banana leaf. It's just what people do over there, but it's just like a really cool experience for missionaries not from India. Like, we don't eat off banana leaves here, and so that was fun. But yeah, no beef. They have McDonald's in India, and they don't have beef. Which, you think McDonald's. They have their French fries and they're good. They have ice creams. They have like McCurry pans, and so McDonald's has like a regional menu but no beef on it, and that's kind of a funny thing.